let's get your view on Barloworld. As I said earlier, the company closing 45 Rand 20 today. It's up 1.5%, but certainly underperforming the broader JSE all-share. Big recovery after the fall that we saw on Friday. Barloworld, in your opinion, offering value at this stage given the highly cyclical nature of the stock?
Evening, Bronwyn. You know, just on basic numbers, just looking at what the share price did compared to the rest of the market, results were disappointing. Drilling into the numbers, there's certainly nothing to really inspire. What struck me, and I hadn't known this before, and it probably slipped me by in a sense, but the automotive was half of their revenue. Had never occurred to me that there was such a big automotive stock in that sense. Very, very cyclical. And I think the issue is, and we've discussed this before, is that the recovery is moving forward, but it's fragile. And last week illustrated just how fragile the recovery is. And it's going to take special companies to really maximize this recovery in their spaces. Barloworld's a good stock, but as I said, I think a bit disappointing. I think investors out there are saying, we're not convinced, looking elsewhere in many senses.
Let's quickly chat about the gold miners. Those company out with third quarter earnings updates. Harmony today coming in, and we've got to look at the cash cost for these companies of getting that gold out of the ground. And looking at Harmony today coming in with a cash cost per ounce of $829. That's per ounce. And if you compare that to the likes of Goldfields and AngloGold Ashanti last week, both reporting, we had Goldfields with a cash cost of $703 an ounce, and we had AngloGold Ashanti coming in with the lowest cash cost per ounce of $619 per ounce. Is this a line that you focus on when looking at the gold miners, Simon?
Absolutely. I mean, cash costs are critical, and unfortunately for the gold miners, they're really behind the eight ball, particularly the more exposure you have in South Africa. If nothing else, we know what's happening with regards to Eskom going forward. That's going to hurt their cash costs, and costs have just been rising. I mean, fortunately for them, the gold price has been moving very, very strongly for them, but cash costs have been rising well ahead of inflation for the last 4, 5, 6, 10 years, just going up and up and up, and there doesn't seem to be any cap on it. They're trying to shut down the mines that are more expensive. Then they have other issues. They lose days due to Department of Minerals closing them down. They lose days due to fertilities. They lose quality of ore drops. Nothing seems to go in their favor. Costs are up, production down, numbers not pretty at all.
News flow out of BHP Billiton that company and Rio Tinto are putting projects in Australia on hold as they survey the impact of that 40% tax proposed by the Australian government that's on resource profits in that territory. BHP Billiton today closing up 5 2/3% after taking a hammering last week. But ultimately, if they're putting on hold projects in Australia, they've got 51% of their assets. This is BHP Billiton in Australia. What does that mean for the company going forward?
I think what we're seeing is a heck lot of jockeying at the moment. From the Australian government side, elections within the next 8 or 10 months or so, early next year. So certainly they're doing, it senses a lot of positioning themselves for that. The BHP Billitons and the Rio Tintos talking about, disinvestment in a sense, not so much disinvestment, but no new investment coming in. I think a heck lot of jockeying. I think worst case they'll meet somewhere in the middle, and I don't think it'll be as bad as currently proposed, and might end up not being there at all. I think in the case of BHP Billiton, the planet is really their workspace. If they look at Australia and say the numbers don't work, they take their available cash and they go look for assets somewhere else.
Simon, we are running out of time. I just need to get a very quick comment on AstraPac. Headline earnings per share, annual headline earnings per share up 88% in the plastics and packaging company. That's after significant restructuring. You've got 15 seconds, Simon.
The restructuring has worked very, very well for them. Numbers were impressive. I think they're very well positioned. These packaging companies do well when economies are recovering.
Simon, thank you very much.